again, and this is part 2 of my Forge World Thunderhawk Gunship build log. And I spent a very enjoyable evening going through all the bags and everything wrapped up in the bubble wrap and laying it all out, making sure everything was there and that everything was in good order, which I can report happily it is. Now, I mean, those of you that aren't familiar maybe with building or dealing with Forge World models, I mean, this is how I go about doing it anyway. I mean, it's not a it's not an exact science, but you can apply this kind of process, I suppose, to any Forge World model or any resin kit. I mean, this particular model, the Thunderhawk Gunship from Forge World, comes in at £475. And £475 gets you that, plus all the design and hard work Forge World went into designing it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I mean, that's getting on for a mortgage payment, to be honest, for me. But there we go. It's an expensive model, and it's one of those things I think you need to take your time. Personally, want to take my time, want to enjoy the process, don't want to rush it really. So anyway, went through all the bags. We looked at it in the last video. There was stuff in bags, and I've basically laid it out for bag 1, bag 2, bag 3, and 4, and 5. And 6, and then all the parts here wrapped up in bubble wrap. So what I did is basically went through the instructions, looked at the exploded diagram there, and went through every piece. Just went through bag 1, found the piece, found the bit of the Thunderhawk, and crossed it off, highlighted it off just to make sure it was okay, and then went through every component basically, just checking it over. I mean, you can see that's a very crisp, clean casting. Very nice, to be fair. I mean, there is not even on the edges, there is not a mold slip on there at all. So I went through every single piece. Like I say, I won't do this on video. I mean, we got some flashing here we need to remove. But I mean, overall, the quality of the casting is really nice, to be honest. Really clean. Not greasy. I mean, you can feel a bit of the release agent on there, but not as bad as I've experienced in the past. It's just a very, very clean kit. Very clean cast. So that was bag 1. There's a cockpit there. This is a bit new for me, at least anyway. Forge World, kind of clear canopy, but kind of cast in, don't know, clear resin, I suppose. So that was bag 1. And then we move on to bag 2. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the bits. This is just a kind of an example, really, of how I go about kind of doing stuff. So this bit here is broken off the gate that the people casting it will have used to pull it out of the mold. Maybe there's a bit of, yeah, no, maybe not. Air bubble possibly there. But I mean, overall, it's a lovely, lovely model. So anyway, I went through the whole thing, every single component, made sure everything was right, everything was clean, no issues. I mean, I didn't really, no major warping really. I think the biggest warped parts are the las cannons for the attack wings. Yeah, I mean, that's a warpage there. And for those of you uninitiated with the how to deal with resin, you get a handy guide from Forge World that tells you. But a bit of hot water or hairdryer will straighten that back out. No issue at all. I I'm much more. I mean, this is a far nicer, cleaner cast than the previous version of the Thunderhawk. I should also add actually just a little hint and tip and stuff. You'll see like with our component here, we've got like some snappage. So this was obviously on here like this, and then in transit this snapped off, but to no detriment to this part, because these two bits here, which would feed the resin into the mold, are still there. So we can cut that off and clean it up, and that'll be fine. On this component though, which is our front nose, we've got a bit of damage. So this will be the front with the assault ramp kind of like this. So what we've got here is we've had some snappage in transit, and you can see that. So this would have been on like this. You can see here. So this is snapped in transit and obviously broken the actual component. But what we'll do, so again, it's really useful to keep all of these bits. Don't throw them out, because I mean, my sort of previous instinct would be just, okay, this is snapped off, chuck it out. This is snapped off, chuck it out. You don't need these bits. Some people make terrain out of these things. I don't tend to. But what we're going to do to fix this is, clearly that has snapped off. So what I'll do is glue that back on. Glue the whole thing back on, glue the gate back on, and fill that curved void that you can see there that's broken, and actually, you know, taking a chunk out of the component itself, which we do not want. So I'll glue that back in, and then I shall deal with the gate and cut it off with clippers, and you know, we'll have a perfect fixed component. So just a little tip there: if you do find these gates have snapped off, just make sure it hasn't damaged your component, so then you can use the bit that has actually snapped off to fix your component. And again, I know people will say, well, this is a £475 model. What a Forge World playing at. And I get it. I do get it. You know, it is one of those kind of conundrums, really, that it's a very, very expensive model. And, you know, and quite rightly, you know, you do expect perfection. You do expect a very nice model, you know. I mean, better than nice. You expect a spectacular model for that sort of money, I suppose. But I suppose you are paying for the design and the creativity and all that sort of stuff. But again, I mean, you know, it's an expensive model, and you know, I mean, it's not really frustrating. I'm saying it's frustrating when you get broken bits, but that's just par for the course, I think. These are not models for the beginner, and I think there's a kind of assumption that when you do undertake a model of this size, that you do have some sort of you have some modeling experience. You have a bit of a wherewithal with how to fix things, how to put things right. You know, it's just one of those things, and the material that it's cast in. And again, I mean, you know, I appreciate that it's a potentially frustrating thing for people, but it's a kind of nature of the beast thing. It's that kind of like, you know, it's a spectacular model. You know, it's one of those. Thunderhawk Gunship is iconic as far as the sort of Space Marine lore goes, and you know, and Forge World make it. So there we go. So you know, you kind of, if you want one, your hands are tied, I suppose. So getting into it a little bit more, just look at some of these bigger components here. So we've got the flight deck. Again, it's just really nicely cast. It's just very, very nice. Just like so much detail. Very, very nice. Got some bigger bits here. I mean, these are some chunky bits of resin. And these aren't even the biggest bits. I mean, look at that venting there, that sort of grill, you know, it's just so clean. No bits to dig out. And then we've got these huge honking bits of resin, the wings. I did have a left and a right, which is always nice. And we've got these bits here, which will kind of accept the engine intakes and the engines on the other side. So they're kind of shaped so you can slot them in, so you know which bit goes where. And we've got our recesses here for our missiles. So it's just so nice. I mean, this is a huge chunky bit of resin, huge gates on them. So we've got our left and right wings there. Then we've got sort of the forward lower fuselage, and this is new too. We've got these bits here which accept. We get 16 of these thrusters, so they all get cut out and glued in to these places here. Got the areas here for the landing legs. Now, in the instructions, I'm not one for having landing legs down, if I'm honest. I like my aircraft in flight. I'm kind of looking at it. There is gives you the instructions to put your landing legs in, but then it gives you the option then if you want your model. If you want the model with the undercarriage retracted, skip steps 28 to 30, and then just insert the feet to the holes, basically. So it gives you that option too. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I don't know if I'm going to have the landing legs down and have all that undercarriage detail, or whether I'm going to have the legs retracted. I mean, it is going to be on some sort of stand. And again, as part of this video series, I will go through my thought process about how I'm going to mount it. I mean, the good thing about having the landing legs I'm losing my words here. Not retracted. Landing legs are engaged, are down, whatever. Yeah, whatever the opposite to retracted is. I can't think. Anyway, so the beauty of having the landing legs deployed, yeah, we'll say deployed, is that you could have it sat on the floor. And like I say, I think I'm going to have some sort of flight stand for it too. So I'll have a think about that. I mean, again, it's not critical, structural stuff. I mean, you can decide that at the very end whether you're going to have the landing legs down or up. So that's pretty good. But again, all of these large sections of resin, I'm really pleased with it. I mean, this is some of the cleanest casting I've ever had from Forge World, if I'm honest. I mean, again, stuff, these edge bits, I think, I'd expect, some sort of mold slippage there potentially, on the edges and things. But there's just none at all. No, I can't. I mean, if there's one there, I suppose. There's a ding in there. But nothing that a bit of sandpaper won't take out there, and a bit out. There we go. There's a mold slip there. So that's probably the worst of it, if I'm honest. So again, nothing that a bit of sandpaper just won't sand out. But it's just so clean. And even these big, flat, smooth surfaces that you'd expect to be really greasy and heavy with release agent are just not. Even the interior, this bit here, just not. So, and then this is our rear upper fuselage with our section here that mounts the main weapon. Got all that detailing in there too. All that detailing that you'll never see. But it's there anyway. So, I mean, that's sort of the process, what I'm up to now. Like I say, everything's been inventoried, everything's been inspected. I'm happy with everything. Don't feel I need to contact Forge World for any replacements or any kind of complaints or anything like that. And the next stage is washing the beast. I tend to have a bit of a clipping session first. I tend to clip all the gates off, get everything removed, give it a bit of a sand and kind of get it to a point where I can sort of dry fit components, and then give it a wash because it's all covered with dust and resin dust and whatever. After I've kind of razor sawed it and filed it and sanded it and whatever, and then give it a wash and then kind of go back to it just to do that final finessing, just to make sure everything is absolutely perfectly fitting. And you know, and obviously with these main fuselage sections here, you know, these have got to be fitting very, very nicely. And at the moment, like as you can see, they've all got huge gates on them. So you can't test fit them with those gates on there. So I tend to do a bit of clipping first, get bits kind of ready for wash, then wash stuff, and then start dry fitting and deciding how I'm going to do it, what I want to magnetize, how I'm going to magnetize, how I'm going to mount some sort of acrylic rod up through it. I mean, my initial thoughts are, I mean, we've got, this is our lower front and lower, I think it will go like that, lower rear, oops, sorry, lower aft, lower forward, not sure. Anyway, and how I'm going to mount something within that potentially for it to accept a threaded, for it to accept an acrylic rod, and whether I drill again somewhere on the lower side, whether I drill somewhere a huge hole to accept acrylic rod, and then if I put something inside here, I mean, it's almost like it's made to do it. So we've got these sort of cavities within the Thunderhawk, so you could again prepare this area, and again I'll show you how I do that when I decide what I'm going to do, and mount some sort of block of wood in there or some block, and you know, and then drill up into that so it'll accept acrylic rod, so you can you know, slide it onto some sort of flight stand. So, but yeah, really happy with it. I mean, like I say, it's a lot of money. I mean, it's one of those kind of, you know, huge projects that you want to, again, for me, I really want to take my time, really want to you know, do a good job, you know, give it the attention it deserves. I mean, it's not a rush job, it's a flipping expensive model, and I want it to take up time. I want it to take up £475 worth of my time, or feel like it does anyway. You know, I want it to be an experience, and I want to enjoy it all. I mean, I'll probably keep all this laid out on this table for a day or two, to be honest, just looking at it, sort of enjoying it, inspecting it. I mean, I'm still painting up some other stuff at the moment, so my hobby desk is kind of taken up with other stuff a minute. So, but I am looking forward to cutting some gates off, starting the dry fit, and I'll show you that in the next episode, where we will start. Yeah, we'll start trimming. I'll show you what tools I use. I'll show you how I go about things. Then like I say, I'll show you my thought process about how I go about doing stuff, what I'm going to magnetize, what glues I'm going to use, and all that good stuff. So that's it for this one, guys. Any questions, queries, comments, as always, down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And that's it for this one. Catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.